is the Chewing the Cud podcast, a podcast for the UK dairy industry, brought to you from the southwest of England and listened to around the world. Hello and welcome to Chewing the Cud podcast. My name's Andrew Jones and with me today is...
Sarah Bolt.
How you doing, Sarah?
I'm really good, thank you. And you, Andrew?
Yeah, I was in shock today.
Why was that?
I saw some rain.
No.
Yeah,
We've
I
not
know.
had any for days. I mean,
know.
weeks.
Days,
It feels like months.
But yeah, no, I was literally on the phone to somebody and I had to stop almost I did stop literally mid-sentence and I was just like, what's going on? And we had a 5-minute rainstorm and that was literally it.
Oh, well, at least you've seen some. I suspect there's quite a few farmers doing a bit of a rain dance as we speak.
Well, I know. And it is interesting. I know some of the grass reports have been sort of, okay, growth is there, but everyone I speak to is still saying we're behind on grass growth. But interestingly, on that note, someone we talk to, or talk about, I should say, in this podcast today, and hopefully will be a guest moving forward, put a post on LinkedIn today. And he compared some pictures of weather pressures. Images below show mean sea level pressure from March through May for the 5 driest and 5 wettest springs in the UK since 1950. This gets interesting if you keep listening. What do they have in common? Dry years are dominated by high pressure over the UK, classic anti-cyclonic conditions that block rain-bearing systems. So how does this compare? This spring has seen anticyclonic dominance remarkably similar to 1976.
Oh, now I'm old enough to remember 1976.
I was just a wee bub, so I'm afraid I don't.
Yeah.
One of the UK's history's most notorious drought years with little sign of change on the horizon. The pressure is literally building. So what does that mean? Are we up for 1976?
Who knows? I mean, I was reading something online earlier about it's been the driest spring so far since 1956. So
I know,
we've even beaten 76.
It's mad, isn't it? Considering that was it January and February. I know certainly here at home we're wetter than they were last year, and yet March and April have just been. Yeah. We're talking about the weather again. What did we say last time? What do Brits do? Talk about the weather, but
it's so important to us all though when we're outdoor people, isn't it? And,
it is. I mean, it reminds me of a story my father tells. In 1976, his father had made him cut some hay, and he made him bale it in what turned out to be the last bit of rain for the year or for the summer. Or it must have been, I suppose, June time or something like that. And he said it was the worst hay you've ever had because he said it was just musty and dusty because his father made him bale it in this rain. Oh, it's going to keep going. And he said it was the last bit of rain we had for about 3 months. So, I don't know. So I'm not trying to stir the pot with anybody that's listening to this, but it's just, looking at some information from people that know more about this stuff than me that's saying it is comparing very much to 1976.
It's one of those things we can't control, isn't it? That we're dealt what we're dealt and have to just manage the what we're given and to the best of our abilities, isn't that?
Exactly. But before we get on to our podcast for today, which sort of ties into what we've just spoken about, from July, when we move into season 4 of the podcast, can you believe it? Sarah and I have decided we're going to go on a Wednesday now for the new episodes rather than a Thursday. So that means from Wednesday, the 2nd of July, you will have new episodes on a Wednesday.
A whole day earlier. Well, for that month anyway.
Well, not that I suppose it's going to make a huge amount of difference to people, but it just figured it worked out a little bit easier for me here, to be honest with you, because I'm usually home on a Wednesday with the kids. So it just means it's easier for me to do it, as the day goes on with a little less pressure than if I've got to be elsewhere. But
it'll help us through hump day, won't it? It'll be all right.
Yes. Help us through hump day. Not that there's a hump day in this industry, let's be honest. But yes, anyway, so on that note, I guess it's time we crack on. And so today's episode, we are talking about the 1-year anniversary and the effect making the UK Agri-Tech Centre as one combined entity has had on the industry. This podcast has been brought to you today by Chewing the Cud Limited, who offer independent advice for dairy and beef nutrition, cow signals advice and training, along with ROMS mobility scoring. For more details on these and other services available, please visit our website www.chewingthecud.com or email us direct on nutrition@chewingthecud.com. Hello and welcome to Chewing the Cud podcast, a podcast for the UK dairy industry. Farmer, advisor, processor, and everyone else, we have topics and episodes that will interest you. We discuss the practical and the technical aspects of different UK dairy industry topics. We aim to make you think about what you're doing and ask yourself, can it be done differently? Listen to us speak with specialists from inside and outside the industry about their area of expertise. Subscribe and listen to episodes for free on your favourite podcast platform or sign up on our website www.chewingthecud.com for podcast notifications so you never miss an episode and links to our socials, including our Instagram, Chewing the Cud Podcast. All one word and remember no G. Or email us direct on podcast@chewingthecud.com. If you like what we do, please share and leave us a review to show your support. And that's it. Enjoy today's episode. Hello and welcome back to Chewing the Cud podcast. Today we're going to talk about the 1 year anniversary of the UK Agri-Tech Centre. It was about a year ago as we record this that myself and Neil visited Mike at the Southwest Dairy Development Centre. So today Mike is joining us again. Good morning, Mike.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm not too bad. You sound a bit croaky there, Mike.
I've got a bit of an allergy with the pollen counter at the minute, which I've never had before. I've somehow become very sensitive to pollen this year.
You're absorbing the technology that you're testing, obviously, because you've got a pollen counter there of some kind, haven't you?
I'm not too sure.
Was it? Oh, I thought it was birds and bees.
Oh, we got birds. Well, we talk about the birds and bees, yes.
Maybe not. That's a different podcast. And also joining us today is Robert Morrison. Hello, Robert. How are you doing?
Hi, not too bad. Nice to meet you.
Likewise. So, like usual, we start a little bit of a background. I mean, Mike, we've obviously spoken to you before, so if people want to know a bit more, but I mean, I suppose really for you, not much has changed in the last year. You're still doing what you're doing down at the Southwest Dairy Development Centre.
Yes. Yeah, we've got a fantastic facility here, Southwest Dairy, Southwest Dairy Development Centre. We've had over 1,000 visitors through in 2024. Coming to look, talk, view about what's going on here with the projects, how the actual facility is developed. We've had the herd. The herd is doing really well now. We're just moving into our third year. Herd owned and managed by Steamboat Farms very well. A really good herd of cows that they've put together. We're starting to get homebred replacements coming back into the herd now, which is quite exciting.
Definitely.
Seeing how the genetics are going to move on. The herd's averaging over 11,000 now. The herd is just averaging 40 kilos a day this week, which is the first time they've achieved that.
Yep.
And on a 35% preg rate.
Good. So all going well. So we'll obviously why we're here is to discuss that and other things. But Robert, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to where you are today within the business.
My background is dairy farming. I've worked with Sarah in the past, and I've been in the UK dairy industry for far more years than most people have been on this planet. So it's quite a while now. I got the great opportunity a few years ago to join one of the Agri-Tech Centres and start to give a little bit back to the industry that's given me so much over the years. And it's an absolute privilege to be in a position where I can start representing the UK dairy industry, not just in our home market, but on an international platform. And it's it's really humbling when I see the great work our farmers are doing out there to be in this position to help push our businesses forward, help showcase the technology and the really good work that we're doing for the environment and feeding the planet.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, obviously, the reason we're here is it's been a year, and I remember a year ago Mike struggling. I think we had to do a couple of takes at the beginning because you just joined together as the UK Agri-Tech Centre, and Mike couldn't quite remember the name or had to get it right rather than what's the old Agri-Epi Centre, wasn't it? Was the name? But obviously, it all came together a year ago, and from what I've been told, that makes a lot of sense because you're all sort of working for the same pot now, not trying to fight over the same pot. But definitely from the bits and pieces I've seen on social media, and obviously I see Mike various times through the years. I remember seeing you at the Steamboat sale, Mike, and you getting excited about a few of the pedigrees you've managed to find in the cows and bits. But it's been very well received, hasn't it? The merger then and how it's being seen overseas.
Yeah, it's been a fantastic opportunity. There's been a few bumps in the road. There always is when you merge 3 cultures and 3 companies together.
Yep.
But do you know what? This has really formed us into a centre that can make a difference. The old Agri-Epi Centre was very focused on delivering technology on farms, was very good at that execution. Places like the Southwest Dairy Development Centre that you've been to, these are centres of excellence where we can help grow and showcase the new technology ready for the farming industry, and linking that in with the others, the CL, the CHAP, to make this super centre has been a really good way of bringing people together, because we're bringing a lot of that earlier research, the academia world, into that process, where we can now have a real pipeline of collecting ideas from farmers, feeding them into the research programs. Them research programs now have a focus, which is a practical focus, because we shape it with the farmer's input, and then we have products coming back out to the other end that actually mean something to farmers now. These are practical products that will work on farmers, designed by farmers. So it's a real good process.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, obviously after we've originally visited Mike, say this time last year, we went back and sat down, and they've obviously all been released. We did one with the Herd Vision, we did one with the PediView, we did one with Oxitec, and all those are great practical solutions on farm, and also solutions that are creating interest overseas, aren't they?
There absolutely are, and these products, these are UK companies which are primarily focused on whole market, but all the international partners we work with look at the UK dairy industry, and we're absolutely leading the world. We're absolutely pushing the boundaries out there, and they're looking across to us, picking these ideas up, and actually helping these companies land in other countries. People like Oxitec, people like Hoof Count, they have these people queuing up to get their hands on the technology that we've helped develop for British farmers, and it is humbling.
It's so great to hear that we're Sorry, Andrew, I'm talking
with you.
That's all right. So great to hear that we're leading the way, and that's what we really need to shout about as an industry, isn't it? It's that's we don't hear enough of that.
It's nice to hear a good news story about the UK dairy industry, isn't it? Because as an industry, how do I put it? You sometimes forget that because you do your thing all the time, you forget about how it compares to the neighbour, or in this instance, the rest of the world view us. And the fact that we are leading the way with some of this technology is a wonderful thing, and is a good thing to shout about for the UK dairy industry.
Absolutely, it's farmers have had a rough time the last few months, and we forget they put the food on our plate. They're doing a fantastic job. They're building the environment we live in. They're doing all this great work, and they're doing it day in, day out. And when we get visitors from around the world, we quite often have them from New Zealand, Australia, Latin America. These people come over, and they're blown away with what we're doing. They're blown away with the way farmers in the UK look at they approach the world of farming. They look at it. The ecosystem we have is absolutely amazing, and it's easy to knock it. It's easy to say they don't do this, and farming can produce gases and everything else. And yeah, there's some bits that we can improve. That's why we're here, to improve them things. But do you know what? We feed more people today than we've ever done in the past, with less resource. But it's absolutely fantastic to see it. It's really good to see when our international partners come across, they work with us, they bring people across, and we absolutely see that fantastic, great work that's been done on British farms up and down the country, from the depths of Wales to the Highlands of Scotland. These are not big farming operations. These are everyday farmers making a difference in our communities, and it's really great to see. And them international partners are just blown away by the effort, the time that people will take to talk to them, to share them ideas, and to help them develop to the level we're at.
Yeah, definitely. Now, I mean, obviously, we know a little bit about Mike and the Southwest Dairy Development Centre. Can you tell us a little bit more about some of the other centres that's involved with the UK Agri-Tech and some of the projects they've undertaken from a dairy point of view?
Absolutely. We are operating in every area of agriculture. We've got fisheries, we've got crop facilities, we've got laboratories up and down the country, working in universities. These are all fantastic world-class facilities. But what we do in the dairy sector, the Southwest Dairy Development Centre is our jewel in the crown. That is the centre where we do our research. But then we have a network of farms after that as well, where we can push these technologies that we've tried at the Southwest, and we can push it across the country. So we have facilities up in Scotland. We have facilities in the rest of the UK where we can go and trial this technology and put it in the hands of real working farmers to trial in a real environment. So we're not there with a Mike Jones that can take this technology and make it fly. Where we are with these farmers, these are real working farms where we drop this technology in and we let them give us the final test, the final push out. And these facilities are really great. We some of the technology we've got here, we push there, but actually the biggest benefit for us is this is a harvesting ground for new ideas where we can collect what's going to happen, the new bits, the new ideas, the little problems that every farmer's doing and they're just getting on with. That allows us to collect these ideas and feed them back into the research centres where we can develop them into solutions.
Well, as you say, they've got to be practical solutions. And like you say, Mike and the Southwest Dairy Development Centre is effectively a working laboratory, isn't it, for want of a better word? And just because it works in a lab doesn't mean it's going to work practically out on farm, does it? So having this backup of farmers that support and test these things on farm as well makes a huge difference, doesn't it? Because you know what the some practical feedback basically.
For too many years, the approach of research centres and developers has been solutioneering, and that's finding a solution to something you've developed. They're looking for problems, and too often you stand and companies tell you about if this happens and this happens, and you think, I've never met a farmer where this set of circumstances has always happened. It has to be so unique, and they think this idea is going to change the world. And actually, that's not what farmers have problems with. Farmers have problems with very simple, small things which causes them annoyance. These are very busy people that have a very difficult job. And if we can make that life easy, it doesn't have to be super complex. This has to be a practical solution that just works. And that's the key bit, that if we pick the problem up with farmers and we co-develop that product all the way through its life cycle, touching base back with farmers, it's the most important thing we do. All that then gives us a product at the end which just works. And at the end of the day, if it just works, it just works.
And just picking up what you were talking about there about farmers really like to hear how other farmers have got on with things. So actually, we can all turn around and say, oh yes, well, it worked at the Dairy Development Centre, but they've got these fantastic facilities. But actually, if farmers are hearing that it works on and I'm going to say everyday farm, then actually they take that much more seriously and, sort of really try and get to grips with how they can use it themselves. So I think that peer-to-peer is so important.
Well, and I think this stuff's important because I know I was having a conversation about the Southwest Dairy Development Centre with somebody I know, and he sort of said, farmers my sort of age, and he sort of said, as farms are getting bigger, and he said people like you and I who spent our life with cows, we've got some of the stock skills, we can see these things. But he said, as farms are getting bigger, there isn't some of those stock skills there. And he said, I can't be everywhere at once. Having technology like this, let's take the PediView, for example, the fact that it picks it up even quicker, technology like this, or whatever it happens to be, it allows me to do a job of not being everywhere at once and using it as a tool to support the staff I've got, and I can then oversee what's going on. And I thought that was a really good comment, because as farms get bigger, more and more things like this are going to help the industry move forward, isn't it?
It is. And the other spin-off benefit of a product like PediView is it can start to increase the productivity of the farm, which is going to drive up the wages we can pay our farmers. We undervalue our farmers and the people working on our farms. Instead of lifting every hoof of every cow periodically to check the herd, to make sure that we're there, having a system that highlights the problems and actually could send that information direct to your hoof trimmer, so they come out when there's a problem rather than coming out to do routine checks. This is a system that makes him more efficient. We can afford to pay that guy more money to come and do less work. And in our industry, that is so important with the amount that we value people. How many farmers out there, when they do the calculations, put the hourly rate for themselves as zero because I have nothing, I'm just a farmer. I just work in this place. And we should value this. And these type of products allow us to automate a little bit on farm, to take away the mundane work on farm and actually use the skills of farmers to actually do the job where they can really make a difference. And that productivity is key to allowing us to keep producing the great cheap food we do for the British public to feed them, but actually also reward the farmers in some way at a level that they absolutely deserve.
It's really going from looking at the farmers, paying them for their manual skills, through to actually getting the value for those management skills, isn't it? And I think that's where farmers totally undervalue themselves, as you say.
It is, and the one thing that I find a little frustrating is when people start talking about the farmers we work with, British farmers, and they're just a farmer. They're just somebody in a pair of overalls and a wellies walking around a field. These are guys which are using the latest technology, vision systems, AI systems, self-driving tractors. We've been using these for decades. The general public are getting excited because in 10 years they might have a car that can drive down a motorway or do something by themselves. Every farmer has sat in a tractor that can drive itself around the field and do some of this work. Our farmers don't realize how advanced they are compared to the general public, never mind the rest of the world. We work in a fantastic environment looking at the latest technology, and it's easy to forget that.
Well, I was just thinking as you were saying that, I ran a cow signals course yesterday, a fertility signals course, and I know I ended up quoting some of the information that we got from Herd Vision after their conversation in terms about how that affects fertility, and is it if they drop, let me get this right, 0.14 in body condition between dry off and calving, it adds an extra, 17 days to the point of conception, and it was just little things like this that the likes of all of us, I'm sure, are experienced condition scorers, but we can't pick up 0.14 difference in condition score. That just doesn't happen. We'd argue over 1/4 of a point, let alone 0.14 of a point.
Definitely.
And technology, camera technology with body condition scoring, that takes out the human error.
Yeah.
It's probably wrong to call it human error. It's just one man's interpretation compared to another's, or one person's interpretation compared to another's. The camera never lies.
It just brings consistency, doesn't it?
Yeah, with dairy cows, consistency pays dividends.
Yeah, definitely, and so. But I mean, what other projects, Robert, have you been running for the dairy industry away from Southwest Dairy Development Centre? Because I know you must have been doing some up at Nottingham and play other places like that.
Yeah, we've been working on several projects at different stages of development. As you could appreciate, a lot of them we can't talk about because they're in earlier stage development. But certainly where the focus is going is this element of trying to move away from telling us that there's a problem with a cow to actually measuring the well-being of a cow. So we're starting to really get into the realm now of, are our cows happy? You know, you go to some farms, you go to the Southwest Dairy Development Farm. I was there yesterday with Mike, and one of the people that was there with us turned to me and said, aren't these cows quiet? Aren't they so relaxed? It's a nice environment. And but how do you know every cow in that herd is in the same condition, or is one suffering quietly? We know that they're going to hide away in the corner, the one that's not happy, and try and hide it from us. But actually, these cameras, they're there 24/7. They're there when we go to bed. They're there all night. And they can pick out these cows for us and actually give us that well-being score. And at the end of the day, if we can get happy cows, we get a much better environment. And that's the type of technology we're trying to help develop. We are finding ourselves a little bit where we're moving away from developing the big shiny thing that comes out, and more helping to develop the technology that drives the inside part. So you mentioned the PediView system earlier. That's a case where that's a technology where we were helping to train that model, to develop the intelligence inside that model to drive that product, rather than having something that we produce a big shiny thing that we can walk around a show and show off. So it's more of the bits inside, or the drivers, that we're focusing on in the dairy sector. And it has to be a collaborative effort. You know, there's no one person that can develop this technology. It has to be farmers coming with the ideas, industry coming with some expertise, and us adding that last piece of magic into the equation to produce a product that will absolutely fly out there.
Well, as I say, it's you're facilitating it, isn't it? Because I know when we spoke to Anthony Marsh, when we spoke to Paul Morris, when we spoke to Gabby, they all mentioned the fact that it was UK Agri-Tech that made it all happen and helped them put it together, and they wouldn't be where they were without that help. So, or as Anthony, I remember saying, he said, I probably would have developed this, but it would have probably taken me 5 years longer than what it has, because it would have been a little bit along the way, whereas this has helped. I'm able to get grants, I'm able to access the right people. So yeah, you're able to facilitate some of those, different industry partners coming together to make it happen, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's what we effectively do. If we break down to the core elements of what we do, we're not coming up with every fantastic idea. We would soon run out of them. We get people like Andrew, or meet people like Andrew, and we find the barriers. If this was easy, they would have done it themselves. So we find the barriers out, and we help remove them barriers. We break them barriers down, and then we create a culture where we accelerate that technology. We accelerate it to market. We accelerate it and try and work out what the farmers themselves are going to want to understand the product. And if we can fill in them gaps, we can use the academia to validate the product. We can use our farm network to demonstrate and trial the product, and then we can take it out to the market. If you fill in all them blanks, the product will sell itself. The product will absolutely fly in the marketplace. And it is us identifying them missing links in this chain. And each company is a different link missing, and just filling in the blanks. And then that allows these companies to take them products and absolutely shine and really accelerate them as quickly as possible to market.
So if we start right at the beginning, then what happens if I'm a farmer, or anybody in the industry has an idea? What do they do? Where do they go? How do they make this happen?
The first step of this, as always, is meeting people, is connecting. And the bit you have to do, if you've got that fantastic idea in the back of your mind that's been sat there, and you do a job every week and look at it and think, this could be easier. There's an easy way of doing this. The first bit is connect with us. Come and talk to us. Join one of our open days. Come to a farm day. Knock on Mike's door. Knock on my door. And just come and have a cup of tea with us, and come and have a chat and share that idea. Don't be afraid of saying, I can do this. This could be great. And once you get to that point, we can help connect you to the right people, whether that's funders, We just released recently the Adopt program, which allows farmers to connect and to tap into resources to develop their ideas themselves and to help increase the productivity on their farms. It could be a facility like that. It could be us connecting you with somebody like Oxitec because you've got a cleaning problem or you want to reduce your energy running costs. It may be just connecting you to another business, but we can help grow that idea into either a solution that's already out there or get you to help grow that solution into a product that one day might be sitting at Dairy Tech or one of the other great shows and actually showcasing it to farmers. And we can help put you together, connect you with other people and develop that idea with universities, with researchers, with industry, and come along with the journey and join us.
So even if it's just a simple idea and you don't necessarily know how to solve it in terms of how to do it, but no, how do I phrase this? You've got an idea how to solve it, but you're not sure how to make that happen in terms of, I don't know, you think, oh, maybe if we train some AI, that might do it, but I've got no idea what I'm doing with AI. It's still come and talk to you and see if it can go further forward with talking to other partners to make it happen.
Absolutely. I'll give you a great example of this. Last year, a farmer approached us with an idea for a bedding cleaner. And simple as what I was thinking of is turning the bedding mats the opposite way around, connecting them together. And then when I need to clean my beds, I press a button and the rollers will roll and this bedding will just turn around and all the bedding will end up on one side of my yard and it's easy to clean up. And that was his idea. We helped him to connect and to get some funding. But when we sat down and started to talk to him, he said, I've got the idea. I have no idea how to make the bedding. I have no idea how to drive this. I have no idea how to control this. I've just got the idea that I want to do this.
Yep.
And we grew that to a point where we actually built a prototype and tested it actually in the Southwest Dairy Development Centre. And we actually built a unit up so he could see the problems and the challenges. And we worked with him for nearly 12 months to get that into a place where he had something to physically look at. Yep. And then to go out and start to talk to companies to say, are you interested in this? You know, I can use it on my farm at home. It helps me, but can I actually help other farmers out there and grow this idea into something that might grow arms and legs?
Yeah, so he simply had the what he'd like to achieve, but had no idea how he'd like to achieve it. And you've helped him get to a solution that is achievable.
Yeah, you know, grow, connecting him with other companies, connecting him with other partners, connecting him with the people that can give him the information. So how does the drive system work? You know, we've all seen drive systems on farms that make something happen or turn. But if I suddenly give you a box and said, you know, make that object work, do you have the skill set to do that? And the answer is probably not, but somebody else within our industry does. And if we can connect them across and say, half an hour of your time can help this farmer develop this product, and just make that connection and get them people talking and working together, then we help that farmer develop from that idea to something that he can pick up, touch, and he can see his own problems, he can see his own challenges, and it's a part of this continuous development of that idea to a point where it becomes a useful product.
Fantastic. And I guess, Mike, if you've had it up there, how did it go?
It was really interesting. You know, that the actual concept, when it was first explained to me, I'm thinking, is that really going to work? But as the times went on, the way it was evolved, and evolved is a really interesting word in a lot of the projects we have here, because what actually starts out on the test bed, on the bench, might look fantastic, but when you put it into the real world practical place where it's going to actually work, oh, right, that question has suddenly arisen. Why are we seeing this? And we can work through all of these problems. You know, I see them as problems as questions rather than blockages.
They're just steps on the journey, aren't they?
And that's right. You know, it is a journey, and the actual test facility that was made and developed actually achieved what it was set out to do. And all right, that is not a commercial product by any stretch of the imagination.
Yep.
But the journey has started.
The proof of concept's been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, and that is it. And, the fact that a farmer had an idea to a problem he had in his own farm, went out, came and had some conversations. Some grant funding was applied for and won. And his journey started. And it's great to be able to be part of that journey and have some input and say, well, yeah, that works. Might even work better if we turn this around or put a different, water jet nozzle on or something like that on that particular journey.
So have you still got it up there at the Southwest Dairy Development Centre at the moment, or is it now taken a step away?
No, it's left. That project is finished.
Yep.
And it's now up to the farmer. His journey has started. He now has to make the next steps.
Yep.
And if the right funding becomes available, we can be part of that journey. So we will wait to see. Not everything works first time. We must remember that.
No, I mean, I remember you talking about the, was it the camera on the PediView? Was it, tried windscreen wipers and all sorts, wasn't it? I think I remember you saying until you got there and the lighting changed a few times. And I remember you saying it evolved to be the product where it is today.
Yeah. And, when Mr. Dyson invented his vacuum cleaner.
Yes.
That wasn't version 1 that we all see in the shops.
It was I can't remember. It was a lot, wasn't it? I have heard in the past. Definitely.
Can I just pick up on what you were saying, Rob, about the Adopt program? That's something that's sort of quite new funding that's available to farmers. Can you perhaps tell us a little bit more about that and how farmers can get involved and what your role is in perhaps helping them to do that?
Yeah, the Adopt program is something that's been put in place by DEFRA, which is there to allow farmers to tap into some of this funding that's available. So in the past, a lot of funding opportunities have been there for companies to help develop ideas. The idea of Adopt is effectively turning that on its head a little bit and saying, actually, the great ideas sometimes come from our farming community, from our farmers out there. And it doesn't always have to be about creating the next big product that's going to change the world. Doing some of these smaller developments on farm actually can make a big difference. It might only be to that farmer. It might only be to that smaller community, but it can make a difference in that area, in that smaller region. And if we can increase the productivity on them farms, or we can reduce the carbon footprint, whatever the desired output needs to be, we should have a mechanism for farmers to tap into some of this funding to help drive that forward. And that's what the Adopt program's been set up for. So if anybody has an idea about what they could do on their farm to improve the productivity, to improve their efficiency, to drive down their emissions, they can apply to the Adopt fund, and that will make money available to them to help execute that program. And I know one of the things that will be in every farmer's mind who's listening to this podcast will be that, yeah, but I've heard that the paperwork is a nightmare. And it absolutely can be a nightmare. But the beauty of the Adopt program is that it's a 2-part funding program. The first part funding program pays for somebody to do that hard work for you, pays for somebody to help come in and shape the idea and to shape the business into a business proposal. So you don't even need to be good on a keyboard. All you need to do is pick up the phone, have a chat with us, phone the help centre that's there to help farmers, and really we'll talk you through the process and help connect you through. And it's a great way of a farmer getting together with neighbouring farmers or pulling in an industry partner or something to actually make a difference on their farm. So they can really get involved with this process of improving their efficiency on their farm.
And it actually sounds as though it might be an easy-ish way of doing it. Sometimes the DEFRA proposals and that kind of thing, or as you say, the filling out of the paperwork can be the challenge, but it sounds as though they've found a way to overcome that for this.
Yeah, and This program will be running over a few years, so it's going to be a repeat program. So there is a deadline at the moment for when it's going to be launched, when it's going to be end. But farmers shouldn't panic and make a rush decision, because this is going to continue over a few years, and that process of putting somebody in there, an expert in there that can help guide them through the preparation, the writing the business case, and all the bits that is required. At the end of the day, we are taking public money. This is the taxpayers' money, and we have to show the value. So we have to report on this. We have to do these bits. But having somebody hold your hand and say, look, I'll fill the paperwork in, I'll use the right wording, I'll do the bits that catch people out on these things. Somebody will take you through and do that bit for you. That's the bit where I think it's made a big difference, because that allows any farmer, these busy farmers that have got the great ideas, it takes away the burden of them tapping into this and making a difference. And at the end of the day, the busiest people are the ones that need the help the most. That's the key bit here.
I mean, you mentioned farmers, but you also just mentioned industry partners there. Now, I know you've got I'm not sure if collection's the right word to use, but you've got a collection of industry partners, haven't you? How do those guys become partners with UK Agri-Tech Centre? Is it exactly the same? Literally just knock on the door and say, hey, we'd like to be involved with yourselves, or what's the process there?
Effectively, yes. We exist to make the connections, to connect people together, whether that's academia, whether that's industry, whether that's farmers. Them connections are the absolute key to driving our business forward. We are there as the facilitators of these projects, these ideas, and we can only do that when you connect to us. So what we're always welcoming, we always have open days, we always have events. Industry events tend to be a little bit different. They run in one of our hubs. So we have business centres up and down the country, which helps small businesses get off the ground. They need as much help as farmers, because these guys, they've got this great idea. They're putting their life and soul into this. They're working as many hours as a farmer does to get this off the ground. Sometimes they need to do, say, a business meeting with a bank. They can't do that in the bedroom of their house. They've got to have a room where they can go and have a proper discussion, and just to give them or make them available and say, look, if you need a meeting room for 2 hours, don't rent an office where it's an ongoing cost. We'll give you a meeting room for a couple of hours. Come in and use that, and then you can build that forward. And that's the type of help small innovators need to drive this forward. And when we look at the bigger picture, them small companies in 3 or 4 years' time, you look at somebody like Oxitec. When we first got involved with them, there's a couple of people that literally knocked on our door and said, I've got this crazy idea to wash a milking parlour with no chemical or hot water. And we're sitting there thinking, this is either going to be a very short discussion, or this is going to be a piece of magic at the end of it. And now they're employing engineers up and down the country. They've got research centres that they're starting to take this technology on. This is adding value to UK PLC. This is creating jobs. This is making a difference. Not just here. We're now starting to help them on the export journey. We're actually starting to make a difference where we can bring value into the UK itself.
Well, I was going to say, thinking of Oxitec, I know, again, on their social media, it's not just, I mean, obviously they've started with you guys, but they're not just in the dairy industry now, are they? I believe they've been testing the system in hospitals and things like that as well, haven't they? And I mean, if you look at that, the potential of it is massive.
There's so many of our projects, Oxitec, absolutely, to give them guys credit, they've had the NHS knocking on their door for quite a while. And they're absolutely convinced that the UK dairy industry is where they can have the biggest, not return, but the biggest impact. And they're absolutely focused on us first. But they know that the technology that was developed on a small British farm in Somerset, that technology can absolutely make a difference in hospitals up and down the country. It's a fantastic way. It's the only product that the NHS has really found that can kill MRSH so quickly. So they can use it for washing now. So these guys are desperate to get technology off British farms. That's what's happening. And we see it across the industry. We've been working, Mike's been doing a lot of work with a company called Agribot. And they've been using satellites and prediction tools to work out the grass growth on dairy farms. And that industry, that technology at the moment is being looked at by the MOD. They're actually looking at that technology saying, this is fantastic technology. We don't know how you've done this, but we can use that. And they're actually trying to spin off now into them areas. So we're not just having an impact on food. We're not just having an impact in the environment. What we do on British farms, it changes the world.
Well, yeah, you mentioned AgriBot, and that was just crossing my mind, actually, because I was at the, what do you call it, open day you had for it, and met Chris behind it. And I know he said there he can see this such a spin-off from it. He's focused on dairy because he thinks he can help the dairy industry. But he said, I think there's so many more applications from it. And obviously you've just confirmed that in terms of others are looking at the technology and maybe where it goes. I mean, it's quite scary that he can already tell you what every field in the country is already growing just from a satellite. And it's like, wow.
It's a little more scary than that, because behind the scenes, Chris can tell us what every field in the world is doing. So he literally maps the entire world, and he can tell us in any part of the planet what's happening in that region. And that type of scalability, yes, it was designed on a small farm in Somerset with the help of some other farmers up and down the country to validate this product. But we're starting to look, can we use that? The Grass Check GB program is about to come to the end. And we're looking with Chris at the moment, can we spin this technology so we can use it to give every farmer some key information? New Zealand governments are talking with us at the moment. Can we use that over there? The Horizon program in Europe, this is going to affect farmers across the globe, because yes, we can measure a field in Somerset, but that satellite doesn't sit over our field in Somerset. It crosses the whole world. So we can spin this out. It's a business that can exponentially grow, and that will bring money back into our economy.
I know, because I say after the day, I certainly mentioned it to a few of my clients and put them in touch with Chris. And I think all of them are working with Chris this year to, what was it, truth test? Is that the word you used, Mike? I think it was to make sure it does what it says on the box, basically.
Well, yeah, it's about the journey again evolving. I've been feeding figures in from plate meter readings for 2 years, which Chris's AgriBot has managed to develop their model. They need to now go to the next step, where they need more data, basically, from farmers willing to embrace what Chris's product with developing figures to try to think of the right word, to predict grass yield. Over the next 10 days with weather pattern models coming into play. And it is, taking that journey to the next level, getting it ready to make sure that it is fully tested, does exactly what it says on the tin when it's commercially available, which will hopefully be in the next 12 months.
Yeah, I mean, certainly the three I put in touch with him when I've had conversation with them since have all been quite excited about it and have all said, let's give it a go, because if this works, for argument's sake, it will save half a week of somebody walking the farm to measure the grass. It will just, they're quite, I mean, these are guys that regularly walk their fields anyway, but I mean, they've been quite excited by the prospect. And I know myself and one other that were at the open day were just like, why are there not more people here? Because this could just make such a difference for people.
I really like the fact that you can measure the impact of that, Andrew, that you're saying, it takes a few hours to walk the fields every week, but actually the impact of that one technology can save all of those farmers that many hours. And I think, that's a real, you can just feel that the impact of that could be so huge.
Well, that's to be honest, one of them said to me, if we factor our time in for doing it, and it's probably half a day a week. And if this could save that for us, it will make life so much. It will allow us to be doing other things, because we'll only need to look at the computer. Well, not only just look at the computer, but you know what I mean. Make the management decisions on the computer from what the satellites are telling us in real time. Not have to physically once a week go out there and do it, because I know for some people they struggle with the routine of once a week and going out there with the plate meter. Definitely.
It's always a good excuse. It's going to rain in the next hour. We'll go and find something else to do rather than put on the waterproofs and walk around a field of wet grass.
So as you say, again, it's some technology that's started with the dairy industry, but the spin-offs of it are, and I say, I know talking to Chris, and he's already agreed he'll do a podcast with us in future, so hopefully that one will happen. But the spin-offs of it, the potential is huge. And I guess what I keep thinking all the time with all of this, we talked about the PediView, we talked about herd vision. It all comes down to AI, and everyone worries about the Terminator taking over our lives, but it's not. AI is already taking over our lives, whether we realize it or not. In some of these technologies, and they're making life, take PediView, picking things up a lot quicker. Take herd vision, noticing those changes in body condition that we'd never do. All these things, it's all just machine learning, basically, isn't it? To pick these things up sooner.
Yeah, and I think that the people get worried about the term AI, and AI is a general term. It's like saying the car industry. What do you mean by that? It's a very generic term, and a lot of the work we're doing, it's not Terminator stuff. It's not scary bits that's going to take over the planet. What we're doing is machine learning itself is effectively building in a set of instructions that says, look, this is simple when you boil it down to very basic terms. We've just got millions of these little calculations inside a box. That's all it is. The PediView system is not going to suddenly trim a cow's feet. All it can do is tell us there's a problem on it. So we have to break it down into its core components. And we shouldn't be scared by these terminology. As we said earlier, our farmers don't realize the technology that's on their farms already. If they look around them, they're using technology every day. This is not scary stuff. All we're doing is this is the next iteration of decision-making tools. Instead of saying yes, no, the real world's not yes, no. As we've worked with farmers to develop, we realize there's a gray area in the middle. And the AI, the machine learning bit, can fill that gap in between and say it's a 4.2 on the scale, or it's a 4.39 on the scale, instead of it's a 1 to 5 on when we're grading cows. It just allows us to get that more detail. And at the end of the day, British farmers, more than any other farm in the world, is driven by data. They absolutely make the biggest difference because we are precision farming in this country. People talk about it, we deliver it. And to do that, we need this type of input.
But again, it's farming ahead. I've just thought an example. I'd say I did the fertility signals course yesterday, and there was a slide in there I was almost going to take out that I know Yop, I think, had put in there. I think it's taken, obviously, when they first wrote this, and it shows his wife's ankle with a pedometer on it. And how long have we had pedometers on farms? 15, 20, 25 years?
20 years now.
I was going to say the first ones are like the late 80s, weren't they?
Yeah.
Into the 90s, definitely. Yeah.
Exactly. I was going to take it out because I thought, it's not really. And then I looked at my wrist and I'm going, well, how many of us now wear smartwatches that measure our step count all the time? And again, you could say that's only really taken off, the last 5 years? So as an industry, that technology, yes, it's had to scale down more to fit on our wrists rather than a slightly bigger box to go around the ankle of a cow. But that technology has been around in the industry 15 years, say, before the general public have got hold of this stuff.
And it's absolutely true because, AI, artificial insemination, that's something we've been doing for decades. And in the general public, okay, it's becoming a little bit more mainstream, but they're just grasping onto this. One of the technologies we've done some work with over the years, and we're hoping to bring to the Southwest Dairy Development Centre soon, is a product that inserts a small microchip into the cow. That microchip tells us the what's happening at a bio level within the cow. So it really gives us detailed analysis. This is a technology that's being developed. It's currently being tested now in the States only because we couldn't get some of the legislation in place to test here. So the first round of testing is going to the States, hoping to bring it back into the UK. But this is technology that the company itself is working with us for dairy cows, but their long-term vision, they're talking their 20-year vision, is to have this working on humans, where you'll wear on your smartwatch a system that can actually measure what's happening inside you on a chemical level and tell you before you know you're ill, tell you it's there. So you could imagine this with somebody with diabetes or with a problem where they get a phone call off the doctor to say, yeah, have you just eaten a Mars bar because your glucose level has just shot up through the roof? We're doing that on dairy cows today. We're building that technology. So the spin-offs for our health, let alone anything else, is huge.
Very big brother's watching you.
We almost have to remember that when we're in a meeting, we're talking about AI.
Yes.
I make a mistake in my early days. Why are we talking about artificial insemination on this? It's a bit of a light bulb moment for me. Artificial intelligence.
Well, I've had this conversation with someone myself, actually. When I was in Oz, it wasn't referred to as AI, it was AB, artificial breeding. So maybe as an industry here in the UK, we need to start referring to artificial insemination as artificial breeding, so that then there isn't a confusion with everybody else when we all start talking about AI.
It's the only industry it happens in, I think.
Oh, pigs do some.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But again, I think it's, the AI systems that we've been doing for years, once again, farmers leading the way. We were there first. So I think the community that's building machine learning, they should learn to get their terminology right as well. And actually, they maybe should change the way that they talk about things rather than expecting us who've led the way for years to change what we're doing.
Oh, that's a fair shout. I wouldn't disagree with you there. Definitely. But I mean, we've spoken about, how ideas and industry partners. You mentioned it briefly. Mike, you've had visitors galore from some of the posts I see. You must be about ready to have your own passport stamp for everybody that walks through the door, aren't you? Where have you had visitors from?
All over the UK. We ran an event earlier on this year where we had farmers flying from Ireland to attend. We've had guests from Canada, various Commonwealth countries, South America. Had some really interesting conversations with Brazilian and Argentinian feed companies on soya production and how the Western world is affecting their home market on regulations.
So are they going to stop using soya over there as well then, or?
No, it's the two-tier market that has been developed.
Right.
For home consumption and export consumption.
Right.
And, we've also had a lot of visitors from Europe. I think later on this year, I'm trying to think, we've got someone coming from New Zealand.
Yep.
And various other countries. And, we're also getting a steady flow of high-level DEFRA government ministers starting to come through the door as well. It's great to have those opening conversations on where UK dairy farming and UK technology in agriculture is going, and where we currently are as well. We're ahead of the game as an industry.
You're becoming quite an influencer then, Mike.
Definitely not an influencer. Very good at making cups of tea. Cups of tea is a good conversation starter.
But I mean, there's some countries that talked about replicating what you're doing there as well, aren't they?
Yes, we had a really good visit from a Canadian Minister of Agriculture a while back, didn't we, Rob?
Yeah, fantastic to meet them.
And, they have now set some finance aside to do something very similar to what we have here.
So it says a lot if somebody's looking to copy what we're doing, what you guys are doing, then it's got to be a positive thing that they're seeing it as a bonus for their industry, because they can see the bonus it's brought to our industry.
Well, that minister, they sent somebody ahead of their official visit to check us out and to have a
right, are you worthwhile? Yeah.
Yes, can they be bothered leaving the metropolis of London to come out to us hillbillies in the southwest? But they actually came out and were blown away. And a part of that funding call was that they've been given a large sum of money, multi-million pound investment. And the only criteria is it has to copy what we've done in Somerset. It has to copy that almost identical.
That's what the criteria is.
That's what the criteria is. And it's they were so blown away with that, with having a simple model of a commercial partner running the operation, having farmers coming through the door with the ideas, having industry partners connecting through and giving them a platform to showcase what they can do. It's a simple idea, but they told me, the minister told me, that they've spent about 5 years traveling the world. The only place that come anywhere close was Wagner, and in their words was, if you wanted an academic centre, you'd build a Wagner. We want something that makes a difference to farmers, so we're building a Southwest Dairy Development Centre. And I think that sums it up, that we've got a simple solution that works, that delivers impact for farmers, that delivers impact for our industry. And people like that are copying us, around the world. In Latin America, there's an organization there. We work with DBT to connect across there, and we've taken some trade visits over there from the dairy industry in the UK. And in a few weeks' time, we've got a trade visit coming back from Latin America. And their first call, before they go anywhere else, their first call is the Southwest Dairy Development Centre. That is where they're going to land and spend day one of their visit. These guys have actually gone out and replicated our farm network and they built their own version of the Southwest Dairy Development Centre in Latin America. And they're now looking to replicate that into Brazil. So are we making a difference? The best form of flattery is somebody copying you. And we now have monthly meetings with all these countries where they're continually saying, what are you doing next? What are you doing next? And they're actually looking at us to build a system that can replicate what we've created in the UK.
It's got to be a hell of a compliment.
How awesome is that?
Yeah.
And myself, Mike, we sit here and okay, we're the spokesman, and Mike's this big influencer now for the whole world. But when we get down to the real heroes here, these are the people that take the time to knock on our door and say, I've got this great idea. I've got this bedding machine that I think that might work. These are the real heroes in this world because they've taken the time to share the idea. They've worked with us on the journey. Companies connect to us. Startups are investing time. And that magic influence, if other countries could create that, their industries would fly. Let's be real, the UK dairy industry is a small industry in the grand scheme of things around the world. If we look to the Canadian, North American markets, these are big sectors compared to us, the amount of farmers and cows. And yet they turn to us and say, we want to copy what you're doing. That's got to be worth shouting about.
Definitely. I'm starting to look at the time and thinking to myself, as great as this has been, we probably need to start winding it down. But so going to you first, Robert, any last words of wisdom?
I don't have many words of wisdom these days. I'm left in the awe of the people around me. But I'd like to say the last thing. Look, don't sit there, think about these things or moan about things, the situations we might be in. Connect with us. Just knock on our door. Come and have a cup of tea with Mike. Come and have a cup of tea with me. Talk about your ideas and actually make the magic happen.
Mike?
Always keep an open mind. You never know what's coming down the road, and how, a simple idea that could very often be a throwaway idea, suddenly someone sees, wow, that's what we can do. And if we put it with A, B, and C, we can make the full alphabet.
Any thoughts there, Sarah?
I'm just in awe of the impact that the Agri-Tech Centres are having on our agricultural industry, but not only in the UK, but actually influencing what's going on across the world. And I think that's such a credit to everything they're doing. So absolutely fantastic job, guys. And keep shouting about it.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to say, obviously, being where I am, same for you, really, Sarah, I guess. I've been lucky enough, the last 18 months, I must have been to Southwest Dairy Development Centre, half dozen times. And you kind of, I know myself, I was offered a ticket to the Maize Growers Association, but I was busy the first day, and it was a visit to the Southwest. And it was like, well, I've been before, but the feedback I had from people that had never been, and what they saw and what was happening, from the Maize Growers Association was just like, wow. And I know one of the guys organised, and he said to me, he did it off the back of listening to our podcast with Mike last year. So that's got to be a good thing. So, but yeah, no, exactly. It's it's been great to catch up with Mike, see where things are. Good to meet Robert, and just listen to what UK Agri-Tech Centre's doing and the developments that have been happening, and as you say, just the fact that it's a great good news story for replicating, that's being replicated around the world. They're looking at us, and the fact that technology that's being developed there is being used not just around the world, but in some other industries as well. And that's got to be a really good thing. Got to be a really good thing. So yeah, well done. Well done to all those involved in that. So I guess on that note, I'd like to say it's a goodbye from me.
It's a goodbye from me.
And it's a goodbye from me.
And me as well. Cheerio, folks.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Tune the Cud podcast, a podcast of the UK dairy industry brought to you from the southwest of England and listened to around the world. And now for the really boring bit, I'm afraid, the legal disclaimer. The information provided during this podcast has been prepared for general information purposes only and does not constitute advice. The information must not be relied upon for any purpose, and no representation or warranty is given to its accuracy, completeness, or otherwise. Any reference to other organisations, businesses or products during this podcast are not endorsements or recommendations of Chewing the Cud Limited. The views of Andrew Jones are personal and may not be the views of Chewing the Cud Limited, and the views of Sarah Bolt are personal and may not be the views of Kingsafe Farming and Conservation Limited and any affiliated companies. For more information on the podcast and details of services offered by Chewing the Cud Limited, visit www.chewingthecud.com. Thank you and goodbye.